600 wins, 6 Georgia State championships, 16 regional championships, 2-time National Coach of the Year, first team from Georgia to win the City of Palms Classic, the nation's #1 high school tournament, first team in Georgia history to attend the Dick's Sporting Goods National Tournament of Championships. He's produced numerous NBA players and professional basketball players all over the world. It's real basketball talk. It's real help and real life with Coach Doug Lipscomb on the BG Podcast Network.
And welcome to Real Life Basketball. Darren Sutherland and the legendary Coach Doug Lipscomb in once again this week. Coach, more listeners listened to Real Life Basketball last week than ever before, and we want to thank them for that, don't we?
Yes, we do. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
All across the world, from the African continent and countries like Mali. Do you know where Mali is, Coach?
No, I haven't been there yet.
You hadn't been to Mali yet? But if you ever get back into high school coaching, they got a 7-8 player that needs to come over here, you might go visit Mali. What do you think?
Yeah, we can make a visit.
We can make a visit. There we go. But we appreciate it. And, folks, it's your first time tuning in to Real Life Basketball. We so appreciate it. We got a big show today. Jerry Myers with 247Sports, one of the top recruiting guys in the country, will be with us. And then a little later, we're going to go down to the Mississippi Delta and interview Delta State head coach Jim Boone, who makes some great comments, and he's a legendary tactician, wouldn't you say, Coach? Knows a lot about basketball.
Oh, he's been around a while.
Around a while, 500 wins on the Division II ranks. Coach with such great guys as Bobby Knight and others. There's some good information for coaches and players alike on old school basketball. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, because in order to achieve, like I say, 500 wins, you've been around a while.
Hey, no doubt, no doubt. And again, thank you for listening. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody that's a basketball fan about Real Life Basketball. Folks, you can hear us on your podcast, on Stitcher, on Twitter, whatever. Find us at Real Life Basketball on Facebook or our Twitter handle at RLB Podcast, and you can find us there. But over the weekend, big weekend in basketball, Coach, no doubt. And some big things happening. But, man, before the show, you got to talking about football. So we're going to throw it out there. You know, what was you saying there, Coach?
Well, Cody and I were discussing the games that we've seen yesterday as far as, like, the Cowboys and the Raiders. And then there was the Steelers and the Patriots. Did you see the part last night where the official took the paper out of his pocket and tried to measure with the football?
Put it right. These referees don't know what they're doing out here anymore. Like I'm convinced they have no idea what they're doing.
Really?
Every single one of them. It's like they just picked them up before the game. Was like, you ever watch a football game? You know the basics.
Have a piece of paper in the back pocket, and then you can measure at the front of the football. There it is.
They wanted,
I also got one for you where the receiver for Pittsburgh actually broke the plane, laid the ball across the plane, elbows hit. They said it was not a catch. Now, growing up, I always heard that the ground cannot cause a fumble. So that would have been a touchdown right there, game over. Patriots would have lost.
Yeah, I think the Patriots would have had 14 seconds to go after that touchdown was scored, and then they spent another 3-4 minutes.
So who won the game?
New England.
That's where it's supposed to be.
Well, I mean, yeah, we know that certain players.
We didn't even check the football last night.
That's
right. But in every sport, certain players get calls. Certain teams get calls.
You know what? It's just like anything else in life. You build a reputation. Bill Belichick has built a reputation that he's going to get the calls and he's going to get the wins. So we'll leave it at that.
But I'm going to tell you like this. Now, even, us armchair quarterbacks could see that the Patriots were going to throw the ball to Gronk every time, and they did.
Hey. If it works, it works. It's no different than you saying, all right, final 2 minutes of the game in the state championship, Jaylen Brown's on my team. Who's getting the ball, Coach?
Oh, no question. You shouldn't even have to ask that.
That's right. That's what I thought. That's right. Everybody on the floor. Hey, thank you for tuning in once again to Real Life Basketball. What you got, Cody?
I do have one more thing to add on the football tip. Antonio Brown's out for the rest of the regular season. That's another injury that has just wrecked the NFL.
What's that got to do with basketball?
Well, that's why I said I want to throw it back out there for football. It's important.
You can listen to Cody's football show on another show. This is Real Life Basketball, where we're just trying to keep it real, folks. And you've tuned in to hear us talk about basketball with legendary coach Doug Lipscomb, 500 wins at Wheeler High School, former coach of the McDonald's All-American game, and City of Palms champion. Hey, the City of Palms tournament starts this weekend, too.
It's going to be great. I mean, that's the number one
high school tournament in the country.
Yes. We'll say pre-Christmas.
Pre-Christmas
And
tournament.
after Christmas, you're going to be looking at the lights of beach ball and also Tournament of Champions.
That's right. Beach ball up in Myrtle Beach, I believe. Is that right, Coach?
Yes, sir.
And the Tournament of Champions here in Atlanta. We're going to have an interview next week about that with our good friend Desmond Eastman, so you don't want to miss that. So a lot of good things coming around. Let me tell you what I thought was big in basketball this weekend. You know, it was kind of an off week for the SEC and somewhat the ACC because of final exams and the Christmas holidays approaching. But UT in North Carolina yesterday, North Carolina ended up winning the game. But, you know, North Carolina gets these 5-star recruits out of everywhere. UT gave them a game, Coach. They were leading at halftime. Rick Barnes has got the Volunteers playing basketball, making the Volunteer fans forget football for a while, which they might need to do. What you think?
Well, that wasn't going to be hard for them to do with football anyway. You know? Back to football again.
Hey.
But let me just say this. I think UT's always done a good job of competing, and Coach Barnes is going to get the players in.
Right. Coach Barnes is a great coach. Let me throw this out there. Coach Barnes graduated. A lot of people don't know this, from my son's alma mater, Lenore Ryan University in Hickory, North Carolina. Barnes, former coach at Texas and other places, but Barnes will have them playing. And, you know, UT's had some good players come out of UT over the years. It was two of the best scorers I've ever known in my life came out of UT. You know who they are, Coach, right off the top of your head?
Bernard King.
Ernie
Grunzel.
Who?
Grunzel?
Yeah, Ernie Grunzel. But one of them come from right here in Marietta, Georgia.
Oh, Dale Ellis.
Dale Ellis, that's right.
All right.
Dale Ellis may have been the best pure shooter in the history of Cobb County. I mean, you got to put him in the top 3. I know you've had a couple over at Wheeler High School yourself, but you would have took Dale on any of your teams, would you not have?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And he was doing that before there was a 3-point shot in high school.
Yes.
So just imagine that. How many of you would have scored a game? So anyway, thanks again for listening to Real Life Basketball. Hey, again this weekend in the pro ranks, Carmelo Anthony goes back to New York City, and the Knicks wallop Carmelo and the Thunder 111-96, Coach. Let me ask you this, and I told you I was going to pose this question to you. Cody, you can jump in on this too. Is Carmelo Anthony a legitimate superstar? I know he's an NBA star, but do you think he's a legitimate NBA superstar? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, let me tell you this right here. First of all, I think he is a legitimate superstar. His skill set is very, very good. Of course, we know that he's an NBA all-star several times. Most importantly, he's very versatile. And he's an inside-outside guy. Now, has he won a championship?
No, but Charles Barkley never won one either, though.
Right. But if you look at the fact, go ahead.
Charles Barkley got an MVP, though.
Almost done. Yeah.
Carmelo never got an MVP?
No. You can't take 40 shots a game and win an MVP.
So I'm saying you don't think he's a superstar, huh, Cody?
Not anymore. Not since about his 3rd or 4th year in New York. There was a year, like 2 years ago, where he was playing all season. The All-Star break comes up. He's like, I'm going to play in the All-Star game, and then I'm going to have knee surgery and be out the rest of the year. Not anymore.
I don't think Cody likes Carmelo. What do you think?
Carmelo.
I can't co-sign. I mean, I'm not. That's his information. You know, that's his data, and he keeps up pretty well. But I'm going to say this. Being in the market of New York does not hurt any professional athlete if he's good. Now, if you're not having success, they're going to rip you a new one. So he's been good over those years.
A lot of players don't like to play with him, though.
I heard this said one time that if your baggage is light, there's a reason. You know, so he spent 10 years there at least, correct?
Yeah.
So
8 or like 9 years.
8, 9, 10, whatever it was. Him and Phil, he couldn't get that triangle offense down either, though. He didn't want to play for Phil Jackson, did he?
That's We got to have a whole nother discussion.
We could have a whole nother show on that, but you know what? He's playing with a great little player down there in the Thunder right now named Russell Westbrook, and might be the best pure basketball player under 6'8" in the world. What do you think?
Oh, I love him. I mean, he's like amped up every game. He's going to play hard the entire game, and he does stuff that looks like he's on a PlayStation. I saw him get a rebound the other night, dribble hard as hell, and dunk the ball on the other end before the team could respond or recover.
He just what it is. He just what it is and what he does, and just a good little player. Hey, let me throw this out there. Up in Baltimore, Maryland, Team BBC is some listeners of ours on our podcast, Real Life Basketball, and the Team BBC is a little AAU team, and they're up there in Baltimore, and Coach G up there at Team BBC shot me a message on our Twitter line. And he said, Team BBC's winter coat drive. Our goal is to provide over 200 winter coats to the homeless, and your generosity is needed. We're not limited. We'll take monetary donations. We're accepting winter coats and good condition socks and blankets. And on Saturday, December 23rd, our student athletes will help us distributing the coats we collect to the homeless and the needy. They currently have 4 different cities and counties in the state of Maryland: Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Harford County, and Prince George County. Coach G. Day, founder, Building Blocks for Our Children. Phone number 443-380-0421. That's 443-380-0421. And their drop-off locations in Mitchellville, Maryland, at Prince George County. You can go there. You can go to their location in Baltimore at the Woodlawn Recreation Center, their location in Baltimore at the Morrell Recreation and Community Center, and their location in Baltimore, again at the Morrell. They sent that twice. But anyway, good to see our friends at Team BBC Youth doing something for the community. Coach, how important is it for coaches to get their kids involved in some community activities from time to time?
I think it's extremely important simply because they learn how to be humble, and humility is extremely important, and they learn that giving is rewarding.
No doubt. If you got a coat and you're in the Baltimore area, you got a blanket, you got some socks, or you got some extra funds, throw them out there to these guys, and you can reach them on Twitter at the Team BBC, at the Team BBC, and those are some good guys. And thank you guys for listening to Real Life Basketball all the way up there in Baltimore, Maryland. Coach, you ever been to Baltimore to play basketball?
Oh, yeah, I loved it.
Nice place. One of the best high school programs in the world is right up there in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Wheeler High School.
No, that's one of the good ones. I'm talking about one of the big private school ones, DeMatha High School.
Yes, they've always
Morgan Wooden. He's done a pretty good job up there, didn't he?
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. That's right. That's a World Hall of Fame. So anyway, hey, let's go to an interview we had to do on the Carriage Skype line with our good friend Jerry Myers with 247 Sports. You're listening to Coach Jerry and his good information right here on Real Life Basketball.
Players, rank them, and then keep up with the recruiting scene. The crystal ball is a big deal on our site where we make predictions on where guys are going to go to school. And so then, just an average day, tracking the news, talking to people, posting stuff on our message boards, keeping up with the player profiles. We take great pride in that at 247 Sports. If you want to know something about a player, I don't know of a better one-stop spot than a player profile on 247 Sports.
No doubt, no doubt.
Let me ask you a quick question. Hey, good morning. How you doing? This is Doug.
I'm good. Yeah, hey, Doug. I'm doing well.
I know you've been involved with basketball, especially all your life. You're definitely a gym rat, just like myself. Here's a question. If you had to summarize how basketball has changed over the last 10 years, can you tell me, in a nutshell, is it the kids, people involved, the fundamental aspect, like you say,
yeah.
How would you say it's changed?
Number one thing is it's changed like everything in life's changed. Information's more readily available. Players are their own personal promoters now because of social media. And so much of my work is tied into social media. I think that's really changed it. The players are better. The game evolves. I was a pretty good player back in my day. These guys are a whole lot better skill-wise. Some people the game's changed, though, in style of play. It's more of a dribble game. Not as much movement on offense, more of a static, you space out and spot up and spread the defense and then try to create off the dribble where, it was more than 10 years ago. I mean, that change has been happening. But, maybe 10 years ago there was more motion offense, more movement. I don't know that there necessarily was. I'm old, so I'm talking like 30 years ago.
No problem.
If I compare how I played. But, a lot of times when we get older, I see this from people. They look at things now and try to criticize it. Back in my day, and we did it this way, and it was better. I'm not really that type of guy. I think the players are way better. I think maybe you have, we didn't have the publicity and the social media, and even 10 years ago, it wasn't as prevalent. And I think because of the notoriety and the fame and sort of publicity you can get playing sports, maybe there's more players now that are playing for what they can get from the game.
Yeah.
And they don't play just out of a love for the game.
Right.
But I think you could say that about anything in society right now.
No doubt. Jared, one and done in the FBI investigation are huge stories right now with college basketball. Where do you see Where do you see all this going? Where do you hear it's going?
I think the NBA is going to pump up the G League, formerly known as the D League. I think eventually one and done is done. I think they're going to let guys just go straight to the NBA or the G League if they're not ready. And I think there's going to be less cheating because it's one thing to lose your job. It's another thing to go to jail or to be illegal. Even if you don't go to jail, it costs a lot of money to keep yourself out of jail and a lot of time and a lot of heartache and a lot of fear and a lot of turmoil for your family. And that was what struck me about all this. I mean, people have always gotten in trouble for cheating, but in the college basketball world, it never involved the government and jail. I think that really woke some people up, and so that's kind of where I see it going. I think it's a good thing. Who wants a job where you feel like the only way you can succeed is by breaking the rules? That's not a positive situation.
Not at all.
That's not a positive situation in anything in society that we try and do. Now, when you mentioned the thing about jail, okay, automatically a lot of people's eyes open wide and go, well, hell, I don't want no part of that. But at the same time, it's so many people walking around in those universities acting like we didn't know anything about that. How could this be happening? I mean, we're going to be keeping it real. Right. But, I'm sorry. No, I just feel like, there are some people out there being used as scapegoats. And of course, what you're doing when you go in, but you can't tell me any of those guys sat there and go, well, hell, if I'm caught, I'm going to jail. Nah, they didn't think it like that. And I mean, it's not that they were dumb, but you never would think that you and myself are talking on the phone and somebody's bugging the phone about a kid coming to this school or that school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Although there's a lot of coaches who won't text me. I think that happened before the FBI, but they'll talk, but they don't text.
That's funny.
They don't want any type of paper trail, any type of recording. But, yeah, you know, back to, like, people acting like they didn't know stuff was going on, whether it be like a head coach, I didn't know the assistant was. You're either a liar or you're bad at your job.
Could be both.
I mean, a lot of times it probably is both. But, I you know, it's like with the Rick Pitino stuff, I mean, going even back to the stripper scandal, it was like, come on, man.
Like I said, you could be both.
How can you not? Yeah. It's like, even if you want me to believe you, then I'm thinking you're incompetent and not very good at your job and running your basketball program. But anyway, it looks like a lot of stuff's getting cleaned up.
Well, and I'm for that. Let me ask you this thing right here. How would you evaluate the fact that these kids are being shown so much, I guess you would say, so much money at such an early age? And, you know, at one point in time, it used to be like you get his kid some shoes, and then he's all about Nike, or you get his kid some shoes, he's Reebok, Adidas. Now, it's definitely gone farther than that. What impact do you think the shoe companies have?
Well, they have a huge impact. I mean, you know, they organize the system. They run the system. I mean, most of what I scout is going to be shoe company affiliated and organized, you know, and that kind of goes back to that earlier question on how the game's changed. Yeah, I mean, kids get way, you know, they get so much more now. I think in some ways the shoe company, I don't think it's all negative. You know, a player gets to go out to Los Angeles and be in the LeBron James Skill Academy and work with LeBron and other pros, and I think that's a very positive thing. I think the elite top players today, I've noticed, I've been doing the scouting 15 years, and one thing I've noticed, there's not as many knuckleheads and dummies that are elite top-ranked players as there were in the past. I mean, that's just my perception. I think there's more of a professionalism with these young kids in more ways than one. I mean, they aren't amateurs. They're, as you said, they're getting so much stuff. They're getting flown all over the country. They're not paying a thing. But there's a sense of responsibility, and I think guys have a vision of where they're going, and I think they're being taught that the decisions they make now and how important it is for them to be accountable to, you know, to being a professional and approaching it as a job and a career. I think that's one of the positive things that the shoe companies are bringing.
Jerry, we hear stories now of kids being recruited as early as the 7th and even the 6th grade. Is this a dangerous practice, an unrealistic expectation for kids? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's been going on. We just hear about it more. I mean, didn't Bobby Knight recruit Damon Bailey when he was in junior high? And maybe it just happens more. I don't even know if it happens more. We just know about it. I mean, we have information. I mean, when I'm 48 years old, when I was a kid, I didn't even watch the news. I like to read the newspaper, and I didn't know anything about any other player anywhere else. You know, we didn't have any information. I'm just doing my thing, you know. Now it's just such a different world, and it's been interesting to watch it change. But I mean, I think that's affected basketball. So in other words, you know, we knew about Bobby Knight and Damon Bailey because I think Sports Illustrated ran an article. Nowadays, there's a million articles, and we can all just get on the internet and find them right away on every, you know, and I'm part of that machine, reporting recruiting news.
One thing that I think is starting to become very apparent is that when you say like the knuckleheads in the past, we'll let them remain nameless. But what has also happened, too, is that these people are saying that the shoe companies and those people in those areas are saying, we want a marketable individual, a product that we can sell.
Sure.
And, no disrespect, but if I have a company, I don't want the guy to be representing my company, and then the next thing you know, he's on first 48, so we don't want that.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this right here.
Yeah, it's in their interest that these kids not be knuckleheads, no doubt.
Now here's a question that I'm gonna just come out of. It ain't gonna be right field, left field, or center field. This is one that everybody is asking all over the world. If you got your crystal ball working right now, it's around Christmas time, as they say.
It's Christmas for these coaches, Jerry. Tell the world what he's about to ask you.
What do you think Zion Williamson is gonna end up?
Oh, me. You tell me.
Hey, man.
You're the expert, dog.
My pick at the moment's Kentucky.
Does Clemson have a shot?
Clemson is a really strong, legitimate dark horse in this. And I just say that because they're not, quote, blue blood, like some of the other schools recruiting them, such as Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky. But I think, I kind of envision them either at Kentucky or Clemson, but this is a tough one. So you got any info for me? Can you help me?
Go ahead.
I would say this right here. Okay, let's just say, for example, you threw out Clemson. Sometimes people like to be mentioned like we almost got this guy.
Yeah, a lot of schools play that game. Yeah, they just want to be in the top 5 or top 3 or whatever.
So, but I guess that's to their advantage. but hell, if you ain't getting it, yeah, I mean, most, if not all publicity is good publicity, but I remember one year when Creighton first made the jump to the Big East, and obviously Creighton's doing great. I mean, it's an unbelievable program. But I felt like there was a stretch there where they reached a little too far in the recruiting, trying to get, like a higher level, higher ranked, more heavily recruited kid. And oh my gosh, I mean, every kid, they were in the top three. By the end of the day, they didn't land any of them. And I think they kind of adjusted their recruiting after that. And because, what's the point? I mean, it's nice to be in the news and to be in the top 3 with, blue blood programs. But when you start playing games that next year, none of that's going to really help you.
And let me say this for the Clemson fans. You know this from watching Zion, and I've known this from watching Zion on TV and in coaches' relationships and hearing him talk. I think Clemson is a possibility because as close as Zion is to his parents and his family, and his dad is a coach.
Without a doubt. Some people think it is Clemson. It's a real possibility. I don't want to throw the Clemson Zion thing in there with the category of what we're talking about, just being on the list. There's a very, very good chance he ends up at Clemson.
And I don't see him in a Kentucky uniform. I've seen him, just me, I'm just talking me. I see him at Clemson, I see him at UNC with the Tar Heels. I see him at one or the other.
North Carolina?
Yeah.
I mean, it could very easily be. Yeah, I think Kansas is tough. I don't think he wants to go that far away. I think that sort of hurts Kentucky. I think Zion wants to stay close to home.
Well, let me ask you this, Jerry. You think he wouldn't look bad, or he would look very good in a Duke uniform?
He could end up at Duke. The thing about Duke is they already got R.J. Barrett and Cameron Reddish. So there's some traffic there, and obviously Zion thinks he's going to play no matter where he goes. But boy, that'd be crazy if he had those 3 guys.
Now think about this.
That's practically your 1, 2, 3 in the country.
Exactly. That's right. He don't have to be the PG. Hey, get him to rock.
Yeah.
Who's a better player in your opinion, RJ or Zion?
Yeah, they're both great.
That's the easy answer. You're the coach starting the team. Which one you going to take, Coach?
They're different. But, yeah, go ahead.
You're starting a team. You're Coach K. You're recruiting. Which one you picking first, Jerry?
Man, I'm kind of a Zion Williamson guy.
I am too.
Because I like his physicality. I like and he is way more physical than R.J. Barrett. Both are very competitive. Both are great players. There's just something about Zion's physical presence on the court. It causes fear. People are afraid of him.
This is a long.
I kind of like that, So that's kind of why I'm a Zion guy. There is almost a physical fear from opponents. You don't want to make contact with that guy. People bounce off him. I mean, he could be a hell of a. LSU. I don't think this has been highly publicized, but I don't. I mean, to be honest, I don't know exactly how it played out. But our LSU site, the publisher of that site, hit me up one day. This is like sort of during the Zion craze on the internet from last high school season, because he wanted to get Zion's telephone number so he could give it to the LSU football coaches because they wanted to offer him a scholarship. They saw his highlights and they're like, why not? I mean, maybe, what do we have to lose? Let's offer the guy a football scholarship. Maybe he'll come down here and play both.
If let's just say it works out, and we're talking about Zion and how great he can be, and this, that, and another. Is he in the LeBron category in 10 years? No,
I would doubt it. I mean, I'm not about to say anyone is going to be. LeBron's a very special player.
Right.
I mean, LeBron's 6'9" for one, and but who's to say? I mean, there will be another LeBron. I would assume there's going to be someone better than LeBron. It's hard to envision that. I wouldn't necessarily predict it's going to be Zion. But Zion does have some LeBronish qualities, and a lot of it is that being so physical and a freakish athlete, but a very smart player, and the ability to use that strength to control the game and to be able to use your skills. Like a lot of guys are skilled, but they don't have the strength to make it happen in certain situations on the court. And Zion is a very underrated ball handler and passer, in my opinion. I think he has a real feel for the game. That's because people just see his highlights and he's dunking. I watch him play. People don't think he's a basketball player. He's a great basketball player. Maybe he's a baby LeBron or a little LeBron, something like that.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Who's the number one pick in 2018 NBA draft, Ayton or Bagley?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, they're both tremendous. I've been thinking about that here recently, kind of looking around and see what some mock drafts say, sort of what I'm trying to figure it out myself. To me, it's a coin toss. I don't know. And then the foreign kid, what's his name? Donick, I believe, something like that. I watched some highlights of him. He's pretty good. But man, it's hard to envision someone in the draft better than Bagley or Ayton.
It's a different world. It's a different world now, Jerry. A different world.
Yeah, they're bigger, stronger, faster.
Doug, what you got?
Well, I totally agree, because there's always going to be another phenom, and I would say in Zion's case, he's not being pumped up. He's for real, And
oh yeah, he can play.
No. Is the 2018-19 class going to equal the 2017-2018 class? I mean, this class of freshmen this year, between Ayton, Bagley, Bamba, Colin Sexton, is unreal. Are we going to expect? Should we expect the same thing next year?
I mean, there will be some good players. I don't know. I thought 16 was unbelievable with all the great guards. This year is interesting with more big guys, Muhammad Bamba and Brandon McCoy, to name a couple other big guys to go along with Ayton and Bagley. Zion, Cameron Reddish, RJ Barrett. I mean, they're going to be tremendous, elite type guys. I don't really see that much specialness in the point guard position. There's like about 10 or 15 point guards or combo guards at the top of the ranking who you can basically rank them any which way and you might be right, but I don't see star power. Maybe Anthony Simons, but I think he's going to go straight to the NBA because he's old enough. And so I don't know, man. I'm kind of thinking out loud. I mean, Bol is an interesting player. It's going to be interesting to see how he looks in the college game at Oregon.
We make fun of his name all the time.
I guess thinking through it, I don't know. We may take a little dip. I think there's going to be a handful. I don't know if there's a lot of depth at the top of elite players. Like, I don't think there's going to be that many one and dones.
But I tell you this right here. I like the fact that your knowledge is so broad. And I'm telling you, I'm not just blowing smoke at you, but the kid named Colin Sexton is not hurting himself at all right now either at Bama.
No, he's tremendous. I feel good about that one. He was my number one point guard. I preferred him. I preferred him over every guard in that class. Colin, he plays on the edge. He's on the red line. You don't see that a whole lot. Maybe there's a little less of that in today's game, just because everyone's so self-conscious of how they look, because they know they're getting filmed. They don't want to be a poster. They don't want to get dunked on, right? All that stuff. Colin don't play like that. That guy, he's too busy talking to himself.
I ain't giving doubt what ain't even there.
Yeah, exactly. And people, exactly. But that's the sign of a great player. What do they say? And maybe this is a difference. When I was coming up, I was in the gym by myself a ton. And you had to be creative, use your imagination, make up games to keep yourself engaged. I think that is extremely healthy for an athlete. And, now you can't. Number one, they lock all the gyms. You got to get special permission to get in. We used to just sneak in the gym.
Yeah.
My high school gym was never locked. I always knew a door I could get in. Now you got to have supervision. You got to have a skill trainer, all that. Colin is a little different in that regard. I remember Jaylen Brown was like that too. He's having great success with the Celtics right now. Just it's kind of a different person.
I like that guy.
A more cultivated inner life. Like there was a book back in the day called The Inner Game of Tennis, I believe it was. It was all, and then there was cybernetics for basketball. I think we have a little less of that. That's not stress today, kind of like it was back in a generation ago. And so it's nice to see players who, and it scares off some people. They think they're weird, and that dude's crazy.
Well, like the Bird, the pitcher. But let me ask you this: why do you think I like Jaylen Brown so much?
Because he probably played for you.
Hello. And you win the car today.
Wheeler, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That was a nice inadvertent tie-in, wasn't it?
I like that.
Just kind of happened.
The check is in the mail.
Hey, I want to ask you about one local player.
Well, you did a great. Well, you at least didn't hurt him.
Thank you.
Good job,
I
coaching
appreciate
him.
it.
I'm sure you helped him a ton. Jaylen, he's got a special mind for the game, I think.
No doubt. Jerry, I want to ask you about one local player. We've got a lot of Georgia folks listening to us, and even though we're listening to all over the world and all over the country, and we appreciate Jerry Myers with 247 Sports being with us. But tell us real quick, E.J. Montgomery here in Georgia. What you hearing about E.J.?
Well, I'm hearing that he's playing really well, and people are telling me his game. I haven't seen him this fall, but are saying, his game's taken a step to the next level. I guess, being more consistent. I mean, obviously he's always had talent. Have you seen him, Doug? Have you guys seen him this year?
Yeah, he's definitely improved his game. He's being able.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
do more things, getting a little physically stronger. And he's got a good attitude about the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always thought he played hard. You know, that's kind of going back to the Zion thing. It's kind of what ended my basketball career. You know, I wasn't physical enough. You know, I wasn't strong enough. That is such a separator. Strength is so important.
It's funny when we, a couple of weeks ago, we had one of the assistant coaches, Sherman White from Georgia State, on the air. Yeah. And we always, anytime we've got an assistant coach on this year, because we interview a lot of assistant coaches, we say, we hope for Christmas Santa Claus brings you Zion Williamson. And Coach White said, you know what, we'd love to have Zion, but we want E.J. Montgomery at Georgia State. So, you know what, Georgia State.
So they're working on them, yeah.
They're one of the premier programs in the state of Georgia right now, even with Tech and Georgia having their troubles. Georgia State.
I tell you, they got a guy, Nelson Phillips, I believe is his name. Georgia State they signed him. Man, I love that guy. I mean, I think he's a very, very good player. Yeah, Georgia State's getting some real quality talent.
I got one last question for you, and then I want you to tell me what you feel about my alma mater, Middle Tennessee State University. How you feel about them?
Great program. I did not know that was your alma mater. Yeah, great program. Kermit Davis does an unbelievable job. I mean, they might be the best team in Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's having a great year this year, though, so maybe, it's those two. But MTSU is a top-flight program, and Kermit does an unbelievable job. And one thing that I've noticed in the last few years about MTSU, they have physical strength. You watch them play. I watched them beat down Vanderbilt last year. I mean, beating them by like 20 points. And they made Vanderbilt, an SEC team, look like little boys.
They beat them this year.
They're beating everyone. MTSU doesn't lose.
No. It's funny, the two best teams in the state of Tennessee seem to be, from year to year, the small guys, Middle Tennessee and Belmont, just seem to show up. Both of them.
They've been great programs. I mean, they are great programs, and they've had great teams recently. I totally hear what you're saying.
Hey, in Lipscomb, and your dad built that program up and did a great job, Jared. You got a lot to be proud of with that.
Lipscomb's getting better, and they swept Belmont this year.
There you go.
Beat them twice.
There you go.
So that's the first time that's happened in quite a while. So, yeah, there's a lot of good basketball. There's a lot of good coaches in the Middle Tennessee area.
Jared, to close it out, tell us about 247 Sports and how people can find out more information from Jerry Meyer and all this recruiting stuff. Give all our listeners all over the world how they can find out more information from you.
Right. Well, the key is 247sports.com. That's the web address. And then, we've branched into the pro sports. I mean, if you're a sports fan and if you're interested in recruiting, it's unbelievable. But we're more than recruiting now, and that's the brilliance of our leadership. Just sports news in general, and in particular, if you want to know about a player, not necessarily a high school player, a player in college or a player in the NBA or NFL. We keep up with their careers on their profile. So we don't stop once they graduate from high school. And pretty much anything you would want to know about a player you can find on his profile on our site at 247Sports.
Sounds good. Buddy, we appreciate your time, and can we call you back at another time later on down the season?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Let's talk later after we watch some more ball.
No problem, my friend.
Great.
And have a good holiday season, my friend, and we'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Same to you guys. Enjoyed it.
Thank you,
Take care.
man. Bye-bye. That was Jerry Myers from 247 Sports. Coach, he gave some incredible insight, did he not?
He's very knowledgeable.
Hey, man, we got to get more folks like that on there. He knows the inside scoop. And that's what you hear on Real Life Basketball is the inside scoop. Coming up next on Real Life Basketball, got a great interview coming up with D2 Legacy coach Jim Boone right here on the Real Life Basketball BG Ad Group Network. And great interview, Coach, from the one and only 247 Sports. Jerry Meyer. Jerry used to coach basketball too, by the way. Hey, want to do a special shout out to one of our top listeners to the Real Life Basketball Podcast, Malik Heron. Malik Heron, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. My man, tell all your friends, tell all your family about Real Life Basketball as we move forward into the new year. Coach, we're going to just jump right on out and go to our next interview. Let's move on down to the Delta of Mississippi. Here's an interview we did with Coach Jim Boone, 500-win coach, Delta State University, Division II powerhouse. Jim Boone. And welcome back to Real Life Basketball. Let's go to the Skype Carriage Automotive Group line and go to Cleveland, Mississippi, and talk to Delta State University coach Jim Boone, 500-win coach out there in Mississippi. Coach, how you doing today?
Guys, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to today.
Hey, man, it's a good thing, and as long as you hadn't been like us, we've still got snow on the ground in Atlanta, Georgia, Coach, and it snowed 10 inches last week. So you being a West Virginia guy, you're used to snow. We're not used to it, so our worlds are messed up these past few weeks. But thank you for being a guest on Real Life Basketball, where we keep it real. Coach Doug Lipscomb and myself, and we just have a little fun. Coach, you've had a tremendous career. Like we said in the introduction, 500 wins. Tell the folks about Jim Boone that's listening to Real Life Basketball across the country and across the world.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction and all the nice things you've said. I've been fortunate that we've done this for a long time. This will be my 32nd year that we're currently in as a head coach, and I've been blessed to coach at a few different spots and coach at both the Division II and Division I levels after having had the opportunity to play college basketball at a small college level. And I told my team the other day that basically I've been a part of a team for well over 50 years, and I don't know what I'd do without a team. I guess people ask you, well, who are you? Who are you away from coaching? And I know we're not supposed to be, who we are is not what we do, but in my case, it definitely is. I'm a coach. I'm a teacher. It's who I am. It's what I enjoy doing. It's what my passion is. The opportunity to lead young men and to help them grow and develop into the bigger picture, into young men that are going to be leaders in their communities and good husbands and good fathers is more important to me than anything else that I could possibly be doing. And coaching just allows me the platform to provide that leadership and to be a leader to young people. So it's something I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to do it.
Good morning, Coach. This is Doug Lipscomb. I got a question for you. If I was a recruit coming to your school or you came to meet me, please tell me about the Delta State program.
Sure. We inherited a program that was it was in a tough spot, and I've kind of made my niche, Coach, through the years of going in and rebuilding basketball programs, and that was our task here at Delta State. And so we started off like we always do, ingraining our culture and who we are and what we are into the young men that chose to stay and be a part of our program for us to build around, and then obviously recruit guys that fit our culture and who we are. We've been extremely fortunate that, the last 4 years there have been only two programs in the Gulf South Conference to average 20-plus wins a year, and ours being one of them. And I look upon the Gulf South as one of the best, if not the best, conference in the country. We are the third winningest program, slightly behind the two top teams in the South region. And I think the South region is obviously one of the best regions, if not the best, in the country. We play in probably one of the most athletic and quickest basketball leagues in the nation. So when we get back down to it, though, here's the deal with us, and here's what we center our program around.
No doubt.
We are a players program. And what I mean by a players program is, first and foremost, it's important that we embrace our past, our tradition, and we're definitely blessed here at Delta State that we have a terrific tradition to build upon. So we've tried to bring back our former players, our former coaches, and we want them to know that they're special, and they're a part of us, they're a part of our family, and we want them to know that. And I love the opportunities when they come back and watch a practice, can speak to our team afterwards, or come to a game and can visit with our players. And I think it's important that our players understand that at the end of the day, it's really about relationships, that the wins and the losses and those kind of things, you tend to forget about those. The things you remember, the times you spend with your teammates in the locker room and bus trips and practicing, and the sweat and the tears and all the things that go into it. The second part of that, being a players program, is the development of your current players. And we've been really fortunate that we've got a number of guys that are playing overseas professionally. But it's bigger than that. It's bigger than basketball. And I think if basketball is all you focus on, then you're going to live a very shallow existence. And so for us, it's developing our guys as students first and foremost, and as people that are going to, once again, as I mentioned earlier, be part of the broader community and do a great job of going back and being leaders and being good fathers and husbands. And then lastly, and I think this is a big part of it, is we want to recruit guys who are going to fit our culture, who have very high aspirations and want to be championship caliber players. And if we can adhere to those three things, then I think we're well on our way of having a quality basketball program with really good people.
No doubt. Coach, I'm a former athlete in the Gulf South Conference. I don't even think Coach Lipscomb knows this. Played football at West Georgia back in the day. I tell you what.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I know those bus rides you're talking about, and I can only imagine in basketball those bus rides you're talking about. We only had to do it on Friday afternoons or early Saturday mornings, of course. How's the Delta State program? How you doing this year? And tell us about Delta State this year and some of your top players. And if somebody gets the opportunity to see Delta State play, who are they going to see and what they're going to see?
Well, first of all, thanks for that question. We are working our way through a challenging year from the standpoint that we've been smacked with adversity in the beginning of the season, and which we're currently in. We've had three of our starters go down with injuries, one before we ever started the season with a torn Achilles, and then a couple other injuries that may or may not be season-ending injuries. But anytime you lose three of your starters at this level, it is a challenge. But what's been great for us is the opportunity for guys to get playing time and significant playing time that may not have otherwise received that time. And we have a young group, so they're learning how to fit together, how to play together, and they're learning how to win. And as we all know, winning is hard. It's the one thing you can't buy it, you can't fake it. You've got to be able to go out there and earn it, and that's what our team is currently learning how to do. We're fortunate that we're 1-1 in league play. We've already played 2 league games, and we've got league games coming up this weekend. So hopefully we're going to get healthier here as we go along, but our guys are doing well. Now for us, in terms of what they'll see, is what we hope our team to be and what we're working for this team to be is a team that's very difficult to play against. We are a man-to-man defensive team. We've kind of hung our hat on the pack line defense. We've ran it for, I guess, over 20 years now. It's been really good to us. We've had a lot of success with the pack line. And it's just a man-to-man defensive approach where we're trying to force you into taking contested twos, and everything you get, you earn, that we're not giving you anything easily. And on the offensive end, we're a motion offensive team. So I always say that when you go watch a team practice or play within the first 20 to 30 minutes, you should know exactly what's important to that team. And I would hope that when you come and see us play, that number one, shot selection, taking great shots, not taking what the defense gives us, but working to get what we want. Number two, taking care of the basketball, sureness, not turning it over, making sure that we're getting the ball in a position to get opportunities to score each and every possession. And number three, and finally, and most importantly for us, a great defensive team that is hard to play against. So hopefully those are the things that our team is starting to embody, and we'll get better and better as the season progresses.
Well, sounds good, Coach. Let me ask you a question. Having won over 500 games, that tells me two things. You're successful, and you've been doing it for a while. So
exactly.
But I want to ask you this: over the past 20 years, how has recruiting changed? And would you say that the kids have a different mentality today than they did, say, when you were playing?
Well, there's no doubt they do. And, Coach, I used to always say that the kids haven't changed, just the parents have. But I think in the last 5 to 10 years, it's obvious that kids have changed. And how could they not? We're living in a world right now with social media and the Internet that we didn't have to deal with, that wasn't a part of our growing up. You know, these guys today, if you ask them who won the NBA championship in 1951, they can go right to their phone and have that answer in 5 seconds. So they don't really need us. Anything they want to learn, anything that they want to do is at their fingertips. So I don't think that trust is there like it was. When I was growing up, probably when you were growing up, if a coach told us to proverbially run through the wall, we didn't ask questions. We just ran through the wall. And today, they want to know why they're doing it.
Right.
They're not going to trust you until you earn that trust from them. And it's a process. It's much more involved getting young people on the same page, headed in the same direction because of all the distractions they have outside of teaching and coaching and basketball. So they definitely are different. But with that being said, they're still the same. They still love the game. They want to be good players. We want to recruit guys who have a passion to play. The proverbial gym rats that want to get in and work on their game constantly. And those guys, they really haven't. That part of it hasn't changed a bit. The recruiting part overall is just so much more advanced. It used to be more word of mouth, newspapers. We don't even do that anymore. Going out and watching high school games and recruiting through the high school coach. And I think that's a bad thing that today that's probably not as existent as it used to be. Today there's much more recruiting is done in the summer. Obviously, you get to see a large number of prospects play, and you get to see them play in sometimes more competitive environments where they're playing against other great players as opposed to maybe a high school team where they're playing against one or two great players on the other team. But with that being said, I think we've lost some of what's really important, and the value of the high school coach, the value of understanding winning, of being a part of a team and not focused on the individualistic goals. Whereas if I'm not getting enough playing time or I'm not getting enough touches, I'm not getting enough shots, I'm just going to go play for another AAU team. And I don't think those things have been good for us, but there are adjustments we've had to make at our level so that we can keep up with current, be fresh, and be able to recruit guys that are going to be valuable members of our team.
Coach, that brings me to my next question and kind of feeds into it. has the ESPN highlight world and the three-point shootout and all that, has it damaged fundamentals a lot of times of these kids? Because, so many times the kid wants to make the alley-oop dunk. So many times the kid wants to, fry from the inside of the key. So many times the kid wants to shoot three-pointers. Has damage been done with the ESPNs and the highlight reels of the world, and kids are not doing the fundamentals like they once did? Do you see a change in that, or is it just they're more athletic and bigger and stronger now? How do you see that?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt, Darian, that a big part of our basketball culture in the United States that is growing behind is the fact that we are not as fundamentally sound as we once were. With that being said, the athleticism that young men have today and their ability to do things with the basketball is far and above what it used to be, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know that those things in themselves have hampered it as much as, just our entire culture, with playing as many games as we can play in AAU in the summer as opposed to being with your high school coach and your high school team and working on fundamentals and going to basketball camps that stress fundamentals as opposed to going to camps that you just play games. And I think playing games is great. My son, who played for me, he played AAU basketball and had a great experience with it. And it was awesome for him to get out and play in the competitive environments that he was in. But with that being said, he still spent an inordinate amount of time in the gym just working on his developing fundamentals and his skill set. And I think that's what we're missing the most today, that we're not in the gym developing fundamentals, that we're just playing games. And there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a mix there. I don't know what the answers are. I wish I did. I'm not smart enough to figure all that out. I do know that 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when the highlight reels began, everybody just wanted to do different kind of dunks, and so obviously that was a big part of our pack line defense. Let's keep the ball out of the paint. And now with the advent of the three-point shot and how effective it has become in our game, that's every kid wants to shoot the three, regardless of whether they have the ability to shoot it or not. And yet our free throw percentages aren't any better than what they used to be. So obviously there's some things that we need to try to correct, to try to do a better job with.
As a fan, it's always blown my mind, Coach, and Coach Lipscomb and I have talked about this before, how you've got a guy that can average 30 points a game but shoots 50% from the free throw line. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. And if you think back of old school basketball, Rick Barry scored 30 points a game and shot free throws underhanded, Coach.
He sure did.
So, fundamentals are a real part of it. Coach, you mentioned on JimBoone.com that you've got some great endorsements, and we want to encourage all of our listeners to go to JimBoone.com because one of the things Coach Boone here is great at is teaching these fundamentals. You've got some endorsements by some great coaches like Coach K and Dale Brown. How'd you get those endorsements? Those are some pretty lofty endorsements there.
Well, like a lot of young guys, when I first started coaching, I spent a lot of time working basketball camps, and I think that's something that we, that doesn't exist today, kind of like it did then. I'll tell you this quick story. I was working at camp in Pennsylvania, and you get put with another coach that you've probably never met in the dorm room, and myself and the coach that I met for the first time and was in the dorm with him. Ended up really hitting it off and spending all of our time basically when we weren't teaching and working in a camp. We were in our room comparing our notes and how we were going to run a basketball program when we got that opportunity. And it so happened that the coach that I was rooming with that week was Jeff Van Gundy when he was a high school coach in New York. And so Jeff and I became pretty good friends and exchanged ideas throughout the years until he got into broadcasting, and we've kind of lost touch with each other. But the point of my story being is that I think some of the relationships that you had the opportunity to develop at camps with other coaches has also gone by the wayside. We don't spend that time going to camps like we once did, where you're there for 5 or 6 days. And that's what I did as a young coach. And so obviously I worked Duke's camp and Coach K and got a chance to know him and his staff, and also worked LSU's camp. One of my good friends and one of the former coaches I worked with was on Coach Brown's staff, so I had the opportunity to go down and work his camp. And, I worked Coach Knight's camp religiously for 7-8 years. And those were great experiences and opportunities for me to get to know coaches, across the country. And when I went on and became a head coach at Eastern Michigan University, Tommy Amaker was a coach at Michigan, and so got to know Tommy, and great guy, good person, tremendous coach, and was fortunate to have to share a couple meals with Tommy and Coach K, and so that's how that relationship developed. But there's just so many good people out there that are willing to help and to share and to help you grow as a coach, and that's kind of the goal of our website, that we just want to provide as much information as we can for coaches, and we try to include things that are a big part of what we do and how we go about our program, but also from other programs that we respect and think do a good job as well.
Coach, I was, listening, and of course, every time I listen, I try to learn something. But it can only help me. But listen to this, Coach. I heard you talk about how things have changed as far as not as much fundamentals being taught as it used to be. But I think that's also going on, when you say game after game after game, when you go to the AAU circuit. Well, those are usually, how you said y'all would go back in the day and you would room up with a coach and you guys would be at camp for like a week. Well, now it seems like all the gatherings are at these AAU events, and they're usually like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You guys are on to the next one. But as far as AAU goes, it's very helpful, I think, and also on the other hand, with the high school coach. Eventually, somebody's going to have to come back and talk to that high school coach about that kid's grades. And I think as long as that communication between the AAU people and the high school coaches are hand in hand, it's a win-win. It's amazing. Like when you talk about fundamentals, you are not going to hear any damn body say anything about, hey, let's go work on this defensive stance and slide, and let's make sure we got that down. And, that's very, very important in our game today, because everybody thinks they can score, but you don't really hear a lot of people saying, I'm a shutdown guy anymore.
No, you don't. And I agree with you 100%, Coach. And, we, from our perspective, and obviously when we see a young man play, we're going to work with the AAU coach. And don't get me wrong, there's a ton of great AAU coaches out there that are doing a tremendous service for the young men in their program, and they're teaching, they're coaching, they're working them hard and doing a great job. I just don't like the fact that sometimes the high school coach becomes detached from the process, so to speak. But you make a great point, because we all end up going back to the high school coach in regards to the young man, and not only about his grades, which are really important. Obviously, the academic piece is a big part of it. But also, just as important is what kind of person is that young man, and is he going to fit our culture and be a good piece to a good ambassador for our program. And there's no better person to ask that to and to spend time with than the high school coach, who has spent an inordinate amount of time watching that particular young man grow up through his developmental years.
Coach, one thing I love about talking to you is you're old school, and I can tell from your conversation. One of my favorite coaches of all time, watching on TV and hearing him comment, is a coach you mentioned this, and it was Bobby Knight. Could Bobby Knight coach in today's climate, Coach? Would he have a hard time relating to kids, or could he coach in today's climate? I've often wondered that, and you've met the man working his camps, and he coached arguably one of the greatest assemblages of college players in history in the Olympics in 1980 in Los Angeles. But could he coach today's athlete, or would it be very difficult on him?
Well, first of all, I'm probably a little biased in my answer with this because I have the greatest amount of respect and admiration for Coach Knight. I think he's one of the absolute best teachers, innovators that our game has known over the past 50 years. So my belief is that, yes, I think Coach Knight would be a tremendous teacher and coach in today's world. I think kids today are looking for honesty. They're looking for someone that's not trying to, to false motivation, so to speak, but it's going to be real with them. And I think Coach Knight obviously has a reputation for being very, very real. And he's going to give you how he feels and what you need to do if you're going to become a better basketball player. And Coach, I'm telling you right now, he's I don't know that anybody, if you look at Coach's teams when he first started coaching at West Point and how he evolved over time to Indiana and then in his later days at Texas Tech, he really evolved with the times and who he was coaching and what he had to do to get the best out of his team. So I don't think there's any doubt that as good a teacher as Coach Knight is and as an intelligent person as he is, he would fit well into today's world.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the smartest people to ever coach the game. Real quick, Coach, let
me ask you this right here, Coach. Let me chime in. I'm not going to be the devil's advocate, but let me just say this right here. He definitely has a great mindset, but the kid that would play for him in today's game would have to be somebody that wants to play for that type of coach and don't mind you chewing their ass up. Because the kids today, some of them are too sensitive. You know what I'm saying? They wear their emotions on their shoulders, and body language to me is still very, very important. And I mean, it's a no-brainer that you can go to a game, Coach, and you can see what somebody's mentally out of the game just by the way their body language is. And if you're not a tough-minded individual, mindset-wise, you can't play for a Bobby Knight. There's no way. Because you're too sensitive.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I do think that Coach maybe has he probably is a little bit more forgiving maybe than what he would have been 25, 30 years ago in regards to how he approaches young men. But with that being said, I don't think there's any doubt about that. You've got to be someone who understands the value of being coached in that, in a situation where you've got someone who's going to be real with you and expect you to have a mental toughness to you. But Coach, and I think you would agree with me on this, we all want those kind of guys. We all want the guys that are going to be mentally tough, that are not going to wear their emotions on their sleeve, that are not going to miss 3 shots and that affects the next shot that they take, or even more so affects how they're playing defense the next time down the court. So it is tougher today, and I think you bring out a great point that, kids are a little bit more we are in a much more sensitive society than what we once were. And so there's a different way to crack that egg, and you just got to go at it in a different way.
I would say this, Coach, and I believe you would agree with me, and Coach Doug, you'd agree with me too. The only thing I would ever pay to have anything to do with the Ball boys or the LeVar Ball is I would love to see Coach Knight do a one-on-one interview with LeVar Ball in a room and let them talk to each other, because I think Coach Knight would take Mr. Ball and chew him up and spit him out one side and down the other. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure that would be an interesting conversation without question.
It would be a good conversation. Hey, Coach, close us out, and thank you for your time this afternoon. Tell us how people can find out more about Coach Jim Boone and the Delta State program and about your fundamentals, because there's a lot of parents out there that want their children to have these fundamentals and want a coach like yourself that's going to teach and not just throw a basketball out there and say, shoot. How can they find out more about you and the Delta State program?
Well, first of of all, thank you for the opportunity to be with you guys today and to chat a little bit about basketball and life. I really appreciate that. As I've already indicated, my passion is teaching and coaching in this great game that we have to do it in, and any opportunity we have to talk about that is awesome. You mentioned our website at CoachJimBoone.com. We really encourage coaches, players, parents to go to that website. We think there's some really great information on it. As well, trying to keep up with our guys, I have been involved with Twitter, so I have a Twitter account at Coach Jim Boone, and you can find me on Twitter at that handle at Coach Jim Boone. And anytime that we're playing in your area, you want to come and see us play, that'd be great. Or if you're in Cleveland, Mississippi, and you get a chance, come see us play, then you can ride down the road and go to Doe's and have a great dinner. So it'd be a good thing to do. But we appreciate it very much, guys. Thank you for the opportunity today.
No problem. This has been Coach Jim Boone on the Carriage Automotive Group Skype line. Coach, we're going to touch back in with you before the season's out. Thanks again, and we appreciate it, my friend. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
All right,
Coach.
have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.